You have to believe me when I tell you that I only love you.
Okay, so then who's that other girl?
I keep telling you, that's my friend.
We're getting married next month. Huh? What is this lady saying? Who are you?
Oh, you got in the way of my plans.
My name is Taylor Kim, 28 years old. My family owns a bakery that's been around forever. I'm going to be the 7th generation store owner, and I go to the store to learn about the business every day. I grew up with baked goods throughout my childhood. Some would even say that I was obsessed with them. I've won first place at the yearly baking contest multiple times, making me rather famous within our town. I wanted others to understand how amazing baking is, so I started a blog. I post so many pictures of the things I've baked. I've gotten so much praise from people online. Through this blog, I met my current boyfriend, James. His family owns a confectionery that has been around for over 100 years now. The sweets they make are considered to be legendary.
The things you bake always look so amazing, Taylor.
He would send me such praises every day, and I started to become more interested in him. Today is going to be our first date. James took me to a park that was near an ocean. It was a beautiful sight. We sat on one of the benches at the park and looked at the ocean together.
This doesn't feel like our first time meeting. We get along so well.
Yeah, I thought the same thing as well. I replied. James has such a comforting aura. Before I knew it, I was head over heels for him. Thanks for always writing such wonderful comments on my blog.
No need to thank me. I'm always so excited to see what you post on your blog. I should be thanking you.
Hearing those words and seeing how genuine he was gave me butterflies. We had so much fun talking, time just flew right by. Thanks for an amazing day.
Taylor?
Yes?
Would you be interested in becoming my girlfriend? With the full intention of marriage, eventually.
I was stunned by the sudden forwardness, especially to a proposal-like question that I couldn't give an immediate answer.
I guess you would be a little surprised after being randomly asked something like that. You can take your time thinking of a response. Just know that I'll be waiting for you.
I can give you an answer now.
All right?
I do like you, James. I would love to be your girlfriend, and then eventually your wife. And that was the start of our relationship. James is such a wonderful person, and has supported me so much.
What kind of wedding would you like to have, Taylor? What if we collaborated on our trades and created a brand new dessert, served it at the wedding?
We started working together to make a new type of dessert with the skills of a baker and a confectionery. We spent every day tossing around ideas together. James would come up with things that I could have never imagined. My romantic feelings towards James had also developed into a sort of respect for him. I have to bake the most delicious pastry to make sure that I don't embarrass James. The moment I spoke those words to myself, I got a phone call from James.
Hey, Taylor, I have an issue I wanted to discuss with you. Are you free to meet me right now?
I rushed over to the agreed destination to hear what he had to say. He wanted to talk to me about his sister, who's 3 years younger than him. His sister just came back from studying abroad in France, and is now fighting with him over the rights to the confectionery. I wasn't aware that he had any siblings, so I was a bit surprised at the news. He continued to tell me more about the situation.
Taylor, for me to win the rights to the store, we're going to need to have a child.
A child? We're not even married yet.
You don't want to start a family with me?
Well, no, I would like to eventually, but it seems like James was convinced that if he has a child before his sister does, then he'll win. Wanting a child over something like this had raised some doubts about James for the first time, but because I liked James so much, I agreed. However, the doubts I have still linger deep within my heart. Can I marry him with feelings like this? As those thoughts were in my head, James said something that shocked me once again.
Since we're going to be husband and wife soon, I'll become the owner of your bakery, right?
What? What are you talking about? Of course that won't happen. The words had caused a sudden burst of panic and anger in my head.
Whatever the wife owns, the husband owns as well. So I think that it's completely normal for me to own the bakery.
James said dejectedly. He had planned to combine my family's bakery and his family's confectionery and create a brand new store. He assumed that he would be able to own both businesses with our marriage. My family's bakery is the most precious thing to me. I really can't think of giving the rights to someone. I continued to thoroughly explain to James why I refused to give away my bakery, and he eventually understood. However, James continued to look disappointed. From that day forward, his behavior completely changed. His obsession with the bakery grew further. Every time we would meet, he would always ask,
Isn't there some way I could become the owner of the bakery?
My heart breaks a little more each time. I truly do love you, James, but I think we need some time apart for the both of us. After I said that, we postponed the wedding and spent some time apart. Maybe the wedding won't happen after all. That is all I had in mind as I was reminiscing on the time I spent together with James. Eventually, I realized what I was feeling. I respected James so much for his dedication to his craft. The time we were trying to create a new type of dessert together was the most fun I ever had. Maybe, if we go back to doing that, we could go back to how it was before. With that in mind, I started studying confectionery along with continuing to work on my baking. Confectionery has such a deep history just like baking. I was having so much fun with all this new knowledge. As I searched for more things about confectionery online and through books, I was always thinking that baking is great, but confectionery is so interesting as well. I eventually got invested enough to meet with a different confectioner. They keep using the knowledge that was passed on for years as well, as still keeping up with the times. I wanted to meet them so badly. I had contacted so many different people until I eventually was able to meet with them. A few days later, we met up at the hotel lobby. They were waiting on the sofa in the lobby waiting for me. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Taylor Kim. I had seen all your creations and wanted to meet you to ask about confectionery. Nice to meet you, Taylor. My name is Andrea Smith. I'd always wanted to meet you as well, so I'm glad to have finally been able to. She had such a friendly demeanor. Wait, did she just say that she's always wanted to meet me? What does she mean? I know that my bakery and such have given me a bit of popularity, but I didn't expect that a skilled confectioner like Andrea would know of me. We started talking about our passions for baking and confectionery. We seemed to have understood each other well due to our experience in our separate crafts. You're so passionate about confectionery. I have so much respect for you, Andrea. Where did you learn about confectionery? I was studying abroad in France and just recently came back to the States. She said excitedly. Wait, I've heard something like this before. As I was distracted by that, Andrea continued to talk. I have a brother who's 3 years older than me. Our family owns a confectionery store that's been around for over 100 years. Would your brother perhaps be... His name is James. I'm sorry that my brother has been causing you some problems. Andrea said to me apologetically. I realized what was going on and decided to talk with her more. I'm sure you've heard about how my brother and I are fighting over the rights to our family store. Yes, I have. James had no interest in confectionery at all, but all of a sudden he started claiming that he wants to own the store. What? What do you mean he didn't have an interest in confectionery? I was so surprised I stood up from the sofa. We spent time together trying to come up with a new type of dessert using our skills. While I was in complete shock, Andrea looked calm and somewhat remorseful as she talked. Those ideas he came up with were likely mine. She continued to explain that while she was in France, she was giving out ideas to the store back here in the States. That's when James decided to take those ideas and try to create a brand new dessert with me. Any feeling of respect I had for James immediately disappeared. After meeting you today, I can see how you are truly a wonderful person. That's why I think you shouldn't be involved with my brother anymore. After seeing that look on her face, I realized that there was more than she was letting on. Andrea, I won't react all loudly like I have been for the past while being here, so please, tell me everything that you know. I begged her. She told me things that I couldn't believe. The next day, I felt better than I had expected. I wonder if what Andrea told me is all true, I pondered. I still want to believe in James, but Andrea doesn't look like the type to lie. All of a sudden, I got a phone call from James.
Taylor, after not seeing you for a while, I started thinking. Me and you were meant to be together. Let's get married. Now.
After hearing those words, my thoughts were confirmed. Andrea did tell me the truth. I fully believe her now. I ended up not telling James that I had met with Andrea. I accepted the proposal. After I accepted, James would always come to visit me every day.
We can have the wedding ceremony anywhere you want, but let's also have a private one somewhere in the countryside for just the two of us. Wonder how much your family is willing to help out with the wedding. I want to get married to you as soon as possible.
James rambled on and on. It looks like he was in a rush to get married to me. James, what are you in a rush for? I asked. The answer he gave back sounded genuine.
I just want to be able to spend the rest of my days with you, Taylor. No other intentions, I swear.
I responded saying, I love you, James. Of course. I trust you. He seemed satisfied with my answer. I have to tell him something very important, though. James, I can't have your child until we get married.
Yeah, I understand. Sorry for rushing and dropping something big like that on you. We should think about children after we get married.
James responded. Even though James came to visit me every day, he would leave by noon. No matter how much I plead with him to stay by my side, he would never stay. One day, he said that he has to go on a business trip for a week.
I have to go up north for a meeting regarding the confectionery tomorrow. I'll bring you a gift.
Thanks, James. Be safe. The next day, I got a phone call from Andrea. Taylor, are you ready for this? Yeah, I'm prepared, I responded. We had so much plans to meet an hour later at an airport lobby. Let's stop James. Good luck, Taylor, Andrea cheered. I decided that I would call him first.
Hello? Taylor? I wasn't expecting you to call me. Is something wrong?
I just really wanted to see you, so I'm at the airport right now.
What? Why would you do that?
Where are you, James?
I'm about to board the plane.
Then we'll meet soon. As soon as I said that, I ended the call. I could easily tell over the phone that he was panicking. I figured he would be considered that he's trying to board a plane going overseas rather than a domestic flight up north as he had told me. Time to move on to the next surprise. Everything is prepared, Taylor. A few moments later, an announcement rang through the building. James Smith? James Smith, your fiancé, Taylor Kim, is waiting for you at the check-in counter. The lady announced over the speakers. As I sat at the bench waiting for him, I couldn't help but think, wonder what face James is making right now. Gradually, the people around the area started to get a little antsy as a nervous James came running towards me.
Who does something like that?
James yelled. Standing next to him is a woman. James? Who is she?
Well, she's my friend.
Nice to meet you. I'm his fiancé. I'm sorry, I think I heard you incorrectly. James just got married to me, the woman said. She explained that she and James got married recently, and we were about to go on our honeymoon. James, what is going on here?
You guys, this is all a big misunderstanding.
As he said that, Andrea appeared. James, just stop. While me and James were spending time apart, he had been cheating on me. Andrea told me that he was going to marry that woman. She is the daughter of a successful CEO. It seems like James was aiming for money once again. His plans to marry me were for the same goal. He gets ownership and takes over. I couldn't let him go after learning that he was deceiving me, so I devised this plan with Andrea.
Andrea? You were the one who told her.
He yelled as he approached Andrea. He was about to swing at her before the security interfered and tackled him to the ground. You don't hit women, James, says his wife. All three of us watched him with pity as his life spiraled in these few minutes. The woman that we sat as the homewrecker eventually joined us in mocking him. Andrea saved the two of us from being deceived by James by telling us the truth. Thankfully, Since she hadn't turned in any documents for their marriage to be officiated, the woman's record is completely unscathed. Thank you both so much. If it weren't for you two, I would have been married to that man. A man who deceives women for money is such scum! The woman exclaimed. James couldn't even say anything back and got dragged away by security.
You better watch yourself, Andrea.
He yelled. I immediately blocked his view of her and told him this. Don't forget that Andrea has the two of us supporting her. James looked at all of us disdainfully as he continued to get dragged out. I turned to the other two and said, Now then, time for the three of us to go on a little vacation. We're about to have the best trip ever.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. and he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.